Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Guarding light in secret places, betrayed, broken, torn apart. Still the vow burns in the heart. Hidden voices, quiet prayer, scattered seeds still waiting there. In the shadows, time stood still, but the mission holds it always will. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical. The final hour, truth revealed in holy power. Through the decades they were called is coming.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. Hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic hump day, great day, eclipse day, whatever you want to call it. But it is Wednesday, and shit is cooking. Oh my goodness. You know, I follow the chats kind of before the show, and I'm just watching what people are saying. You know, someone asked, like, why is this song so long? And I'm like, because nothing can stop what's coming. No. The reason we do at least 3 to 5 minute songs at the beginning of the show, right after the intro, is so people can get the notification. So YouTube, X, Facebook, Rumble, they all send notifications out to people when you go live. So we want to get people time to get into the show so they don't miss anything. So that's one of the main reasons why we have like 4 to 5 minute long songs that play at the beginning of the show, just so people can join in and not miss a beat of what is happening. A few different things. I wanted to talk about this because I did mention it on DEF CON the other night. What the hell is that? I did mention it on DEF CON the other night. Is when you're watching this show, on Rumble, specifically on Rumble, what I want you to do is I want you to look to the left corner and verify that it says Red Pill Project. Because if it doesn't say the Red Pill Project, someone is taking our content and reposting it. And so you can report them, you can do whatever you want with them, but that's not us. So if you are watching this show right now, you're like, oh, this is an awesome show, and you're like seeing something over here that doesn't say Red Pill Project, that's not us. Some of them do link us up, which is nice, but it's still pirating our content, and our content is absolutely free. People can do what they want, but I do have a problem with that because that's like, hey, dude, come on, at least give us some credit here, right? And it came down to when we were at the camping trip, sweet little old lady that was a big fan of ours. She drove out there to see us, and we were talking, and I'm like, well, where do you watch us? Because she was like, I wanted to find this show. And she goes to some account I've never heard of. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Our shows are on there. And I had to like go to our channel, and she wasn't even following us. It was crazy. So she's now following me and Alpha and Badlands though. But make sure that you are following myself. Make sure you're going out there, follow my brother Alpha Warrior as well as Badlands Media. But if you're new here and you're watching for the first time, trust me, just hit that follow button. You're going to like this. You're going to enjoy this. This is a really good show if you're looking for that deep dive into what the hell is happening out there in the world, in the geopolitical scenario, in the geoeconomic scenario. What is Trump doing? Has he lost his mind? Is he going crazy? Or is there something really to all of this? And yes, there absolutely is. You know, when I was at GART in Nashville, the Great American Restoration Tour, I was going outside and I saw this woman, and she was standing there walking by and maybe getting some fresh air. And she started asking me about the event that was going on inside. And I said, hey, well, we have this event called GART. And she goes, oh, what is GART? And I said, Great American Restoration Tour. She goes, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I said, yeah. And she goes, well, what's it about? And I said, oh, you know, a lot of us are Trump supporters. And she goes, oh, because I voted for him. She goes, I don't know what is going on. And I took about an hour to 2 hours of my time and explained to her all of the things that are happening right now and helped her kind of navigate. And she came out and she's like, wow, like I'm pumped up now. Like this makes so much more sense. She goes, why don't they just say that? It's because you can't just come out and say that. You need this whole idea behind it that people begin to wake up and understand what is going on. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the Great American Restoration Tour. I cannot go further without saying this. For anybody that's in Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, if you even want to come down, Badlands Media, the Great American Restoration Tour, Las Vegas, September 17th to September 19th. I hope that we get to see you guys there. So this is in Las Vegas, Nevada. Man, I just bought my tickets today. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you guys can go out there. This is linked up on redpills.tv. So if you go to our website, redpills.tv, you just go here. This is the website. You scroll down a little bit, and you're going to see upcoming event right there. And that's where you can get your tickets from, directly right there. So go on over there, check that out. Hopefully we see a lot of you guys there. There are limited tickets, just an FYI. So just keep that in mind. There are limited tickets. And I think you get like the VIP stuff, like for like $100 more. And that's like dinner and you get to hang out. And it's pretty cool. Dude. But I hope to see you guys there. That's going to be a great event. Now, what the hell was I talking about? So, GARTS, and so that one's in Las Vegas. But going back into this, the most important Q post, and people are like, oh no, he's going to talk about the Q. Yeah. And the reason I am is because this has been validated time in and time out, over and over and over and over again. You know, a lot of people are like, you believe that Q stuff? Yeah, I do. Not that I believe it. I understand it. I understand it. And for anybody out there that's like new to this and thinks that maybe it's a Mossad psyop because 4chan was hacked and there's a whole bunch of IP addresses that showed up from Israel, and that somehow correlates directly to accusations that's the Mossad, or people who believe Alex Jones out there when he says that Kurt Metzger, a comedian, came out and said that Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein were Q. Get the fuck out of here. There's zero substantiation of evidence, specifically in the Epstein files. Yeah, they might have been reaching out to the owners of 4chan and 8chan, but that doesn't bring any context whatsoever of them actually being Q. And it's, well, I got first-hand information. They try to recruit me. Really? Name names. Name names, Alex. That's the truth, Alex. Name names. What are you hiding? Why are you saying that shit? So when we go into this, I have a way of explaining this. And here's the thing. See, it doesn't matter if Q was the Mossad, the CIA, whether it was some left-wing conspiracy theories, whether it was Bannon or Epstein, because if it was, then what their intentionality of it, the psychological warfare operation that they were trying to produce, it failed. It failed miserably, because you have to understand what that movement did. If you lived through it like me, starting in December of 2017, like what the hell is this coming right out of like Cicada a few years before and Pizzagate, and then seeing this all happen. This is what it did. It began to make people believe and think that they had some type of connection to what was happening in Washington, D.C. for the first time in their life. That they had someone on the inside that was keeping them updated and informed, but also motivating them to dig, to research, to go out there and utilize the Socratic method on various different ideas that were being portrayed within the mainstream narrative. It caused people to begin going out there, finding and uncovering public information that had been uncovered or never reported on, and digging it up and beginning to string together what had happened over the course of the next 10 years, but before that, prior to that, for the next 40 to 50 years before that. It caused people to become citizen journalists, digital soldiers. It caused people to go out there and begin going down rabbit holes and investigate, research all the different crimes and corruptions, and to find the various different linkages to those crimes and corruption, and start to integrate it together into a network of global elites at the top, financial infrastructure in the middle, and political control mechanisms on the national level. And people began to report on this, write about it. They began to do podcasts on it, till eventually these people took over the media. These people took over the mainstream media. The modern day social media environment that we all exist in is only that way because of the Q movement. I will say that wholeheartedly. Is only the way it is because of the Q movement. The Q movement made citizen journalism cool again. This Q movement gave everybody an audience on social media. It opened up the floodgates of information to where everybody could put out their own research, and people would start to read it, accept it, understand it, also dig and research it themselves and add on to it. That happened because of the Q movement. It was not happening prior to the Q movement. It happened during the Q movement. In other words, it was a psychological warfare operation directed by what I believe the military and the good guys, the public-facing aspect of it, to wake up the American people to begin to see and understand what had happened, what was happening, and what was going to happen, as well as to show them, to teach them that the things that they've been talking about for decades in the context of conspiracy theories weren't necessarily false or fake news like the mainstream media has purported, but actually there's a lot of truth derived from it, and that they need to dig and research and investigate and apply various different methodologies to uncovering this information. So I've always said it like this, is it doesn't matter who Q was. It doesn't matter if it was the Mossad or CIA or Epstein, or if it was some snotty-nosed freaking 42-year-old nerd living in his grandma's basement. The impact of what it did is what matters. The reason why we are all here today is because of that. Whether you're like, I don't like Q, I never follow you, it doesn't matter. The reason why you are here today listening to me is because of that. The massive amounts of people in the audience is because of that. Because we were all woken up. So I'm going to bring this up. I posted this a little while ago. And there was a reason I posted it, but the most important Q post to understand is this one right here, 4461, June 13th, 2020. Only when evil is forced into the light can we defeat it. Only when they can no longer operate in the shadows can people see the truth for themselves. Only when people see the truth for themselves will people understand the true nature of their deception. Seeing is believing. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. Only then will people find the will to change. It had to be this way. This is not another 4-year election. God wins. Do you understand why I'm reading this? Because this is what we are going through right now. We are going through the seeing is believing, the drip methodology that is occurring right now. This is not for you and me who were woken up years ago or decades ago. This is for the normies, the everyday average people, the people who are having dinner time conversations at their table, working 40 hours a week, who aren't able to go out there and watch the 6 o'clock news or catch a podcast. What is going on right now is the information dissemination of structuring together a grand conspiracy, one little segment at a time. This is the drip until the floodgates begin to open. But think about this here. Only when they can no longer operate in the shadows can people see for themselves. We are at that point right now. They can no longer operate in the shadows. Why? Because you have digital soldiers, citizen journalists. You have anons everywhere and artists that are uncovering every damn angle of corruption that these people operate under. The whole private public organizational network that they operate, the global institutions, the NGOs, they can no longer operate with absolute impunity. They have to operate under the guise of scrutiny. That is the truth. And that is because of posts like this and movements like this. Only when people see the truth for themselves will people understand the true nature of the deception. Think about that in the context of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Whether people begin to see it or not, there was a PSYOP ran last year, more of an influence operation ran by the Trump administration. Yeah, absolutely. They ran that. And I'll admit that they ran that. Because it wasn't for you, it wasn't for me, it was for the everyday average American. And I've said this time and time again. If Jeffrey Epstein was prosecuted in 2019 instead of whatever happened to him in that jail cell, nobody would have cared. Nobody would have known who the hell Jeffrey Epstein was. The mainstream media would have covered it up and you would have known nothing of any of the people that were associated with him. It would have been over and done with, and that's it. And Jeffrey Epstein would be going to jail for a long time. That's it. That would have been done. But that's not what happened. See, Jeffrey Epstein, he unalived himself in a jail cell. 18 USC 3561. That's what I think, WITSEC. I think that he is in witness protection. I think he's probably in Israel. That's my guess. So when we go into the idea here, though, is what the Trump administration did immediately when they came out. They said it was a mistake. Remember the Epstein binders, the big binders that all these influencers who just have connections to the Trump administration, they're not even really good journalists. They all go out there. They got these binders called the Epstein binder or the Epstein files. And there's nothing new in there. There's nothing in there that is declassified recently. And all of the influencers who were there, not one of them was any person who ever researched Jeffrey Epstein. So what did this do? This pissed a lot of people off. It pissed a lot of people off to the point where they went to social media and they began saying, hey, why the hell are these pissant reporters and journalists and influencers getting the Jeffrey Epstein files when we're the ones that did the actual research? And then we go through and they're like, there's nothing new here, but all the old information starts getting spread out online. Then you have Pam Bondi. Oh my God, I saw the Epstein videos. These are horrific. Oh my God. We got the Epstein black book here, the list right here, everything. And that got people, oh my God, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Then a week later, she rug pulled it and said, there's nothing in there. Todd Blanche comes out and says, there's no like Epstein list per se. Then what happens? You have this K-fob fight between Scott Bassett and Elon Musk, and Donald Trump has a falling out with Elon Musk. And Elon Musk is like, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. And the left blow their lid. The left begin to say, well, you need to release the Epstein files if Donald Trump is in there. The mainstream media picks up on it. All of a sudden, Jeffrey Epstein is a household name. People are discussing this at the dinner table. People are going out there talking about this at work, in the scuttlebutt, everything. People begin to research, investigate. Oh, who was Jeffrey Epstein? What was Jeffrey Epstein doing? What was his first indictment in 2008 about? What is Donald Trump's connection to him? And Donald Trump is like, oh, it's a nothing burger. Just let it go. It's a nothing burger. Oh, he's a loser. He's dead now, so just let it go. And he egged it on. And then what do you get? You get a bipartisan bill that comes out. Passed almost 100% by both houses, and Donald Trump signs it. And then you get 2 tranches of information released, and people are like, yeah, but nothing happened. There was no accountability. No accountability? Large financial institutions lost some of their top executives and members because they were implicated within the Epstein files. One of the most profound effects of the Epstein files being released was what happened to the Rothschild banking dynasty. See, people didn't hear about this because it's not being reported that much anymore, because the mainstream media doesn't report on this stuff. But the Rothschilds, their whole banking empire started losing over 60% of its business because of their affiliation and association with Jeffrey Epstein. Interesting. But guess what? There's more. It's not over with Jeffrey Epstein, guys. Remember how I was telling you about Judge Emmett Sullivan? Judge Emmett Sullivan. He issued a subpoena to the Department of Justice pertaining to the bill of Congress that Trump signed on the declassification and disclosure of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Well, he received a few weeks ago all of these documents with all the names unredacted. Now, Emmett Sullivan, by the way, is the same guy that tried to prosecute Flynn. But what did we just learn today? You're going to love this because I told you it was going to happen. A group of undisclosed documents related to the government's investigation that Jeffrey Epstein can be made public under the 2025 law requiring the release of the Epstein files. A federal judge ruled. Reporting back. And there's more. There's more to come. There's more of these documents to come. See, I look at it like this. And people ask me, well, why did Trump play this game? I think it was multifaceted, but I also think that the Trump DOJ can't necessarily go out there and begin implicating global elites. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second. You're like, why not? That's the plan. No, it's not the plan. That's your idea of the plan. That's not their plan. But let me tell you why, and hopefully this makes sense. You have what's called a multi-headed hydra, okay? Dr. John Coleman, former MI6 and CIA, he left and he started writing books. One of them was called The Committee of 300. In The Committee of 300, he talks about this global structure, this global elite structure of 300 people that sit at a table like a board of directors and rule the world. This is the Orsini, the Colonna family, the Machinis, all of these guys. All of them sit at this table. That has migrated a lot since the 1990s when John Coleman did that groundbreaking work. You've heard about the 13 Illuminati bloodlines. Yeah, a little bit of that in there, but not necessarily. I wouldn't follow that as truth. It's more speculative in the context of that. But start adding that all up. There are global elite families, and a lot of them you've never even heard of. And they do control a lot of the world. And here's the idea of how to control the world at that level. It's not about how much money you have. It's not about how many widgets you can produce. It's about the control of resources and the accessibility of the resources. That's why money plays a big factor in this, because you need money to mine resources, to process, to manufacture products and goods, to ship and transport things around the world. Everything comes down to appreciating assets, or how to transition an asset like a resource into something that's commoditable or something that can make you money. But that, because it is deemed as a scarcity on this planet, is the number one thing that brings about the generation of power and control. And so when you start to look at the global framework, what we consider to be the global elite, the New World Order, the one world government, those people, that global elite infrastructure since the 1948, after the Bretton Woods Agreement was put into place, that started doing the work to undermine the U.S. Constitution, to become more and more lefty, liberal, Marxist over time, implementing their people into the infrastructure of our schools and universities and our education system within our town and local county boards and within our school boards. These people, those ones that funded that distribution of socialism, of Marxism across the world for about a 60 to 80 year period, they were the leaders of big finance. Big global banks out of London, big insurance companies out of London that financed massive amounts of corporations around the world for resource acquisition. Then on the other side of that is you had the political power structures from the dynastical families, from the aristocracies of the old European bloodlines, who were deeply integrated into that money control factor coming out of the city of London or out of Washington, D.C. or New York City. But at the end of the day, it came about with the leaders and the heads of industry, of manufacturing, processing, transportation, the accessibility, and the acquirement of resources. Those corporations and companies became the ones that became the most powerful. This is why big oil is some of the wealthiest corporations on the planet. This is why big pharma is right behind them. Big pharma is wealthy because of big oil. Do people know that connection? J.D. Rockefeller, after his monopoly was broken up in the early 20th century, in like 1903, 1904, when Standard Oil was broken up in the Chevron and Exxon, what happened? Well, he went out there and he wanted to find more utilization for oil other than just a few different cars. So what did he do? He funded something known as the Flexner Report. Dr. Flexner was a high school science teacher, not even a medical doctor, who wrote out a report basically damning apothecaries and old style medicines and bringing in the age of a pill for every ill, bringing in the modern day pharmakia. And those pharmaceutical drugs are primarily based upon petroleum substitutes. So when we start to look at the multi-headed Hydra, you have this global structure that had built itself up for over 100 years, okay? This is the Soros, the Rothschilds, this is the royal dynasties, the aristocracy, all of that level. Names that you've never heard of, people you will never know. And they had their tight-knit group. We call them the Satanic Cabal. Notice I haven't said the word Jew at all in here. They had their Satanic Cabal, the Satanists, the pedophiles, all of these guys up here. Well, all of these other players on the global stage began to align with them because they were the massive power structure that ruled and controlled the decision-making processes through global institutions derived through the United Nations and various other global think tanks that basically ran the world's governments because they have implemented them people throughout the various different power control structures of world government. So all these other factions began to align towards it until 2016, when Donald Trump came into power. Donald Trump began to dismantle the connectivity of that. One of the first families that is believed that Donald Trump freed from all of that was the Rockefeller family. Bet you didn't know that. Was the Rockefeller family. The second family was the royal family of Saudi Arabia. Those three, Rockefellers, the Sauds, and the Rothschilds, made up that triangle. Because they controlled what? Oil, gas, resources, and money. It's not hard to figure that out. So Trump began disrupting that top-level global command structure, as well through policies, regulations, through making America great, by undoing all of the radicalized different implementations that have happened throughout our country at the local level to the federal level. He began dismantling their whole system, but they fought back against him from 2016 to 2020. That's one of the reasons why they couped him in 2020. Now in 2024, within 1 year, most of that power that was destabilized from the first 4 years of Trump began to centralize its power and control, because it had taken a massive hit, began to centralize its power and control among China and the BRICS nations. And Donald Trump landed them a smack to the face immediately when he came in with tariffs, with renegotiation of various different trade deals, with various different policies, the national security strategy, the national defense strategy that came out of the United States of America, pulling funding out, USAID shut off. All of this began to dismantle their entire system. Well, what begins to happen is that when you see this massive power structure begin to tumble, the feet are being pulled out. There we go. Had a little glitch there. The feet are being pulled out from underneath it. Those factions begin to branch off, and they look for a new power structure to align with. That was Donald Trump. So I want you to think about this, is that those global factions, the power-controlled elite up here, begin to branch off over towards this new power structure that's rising up, which is Donald Trump in the United States of America. Now, who are they? They're global leaders in manufacturing, processing, transportation, accessibility, and extraction of resources, raw materials throughout the world, of banking, of weapon defense systems that were all once aligned over here are now aligned over here. And a lot of them are implicated by the Epstein files. Full circle. Implicated by the Epstein files. So if you're Donald Trump and you know this, and you know that if you came out there and directly began implicating these people by unredacting their names, putting their names out there, prosecuting, investigating them, what's going to happen to that system that just now reformed under you? It begins to fall apart. People are like, oh shit, he just took out Jim over there. I don't want to get taken out next. I had some shit that happened. I'm out of here too. The system begins to fall apart. So he can't directly go after these people, but you can indirectly go after these people. That's when you enter a liberal judge like Emmett Sullivan that was put into place by Bill Clinton, who comes out there, who subpoenas these files directly from the DOJ, gets them unredacted, and then begins to release them. That's when you get things like the Mossad, where you have Netanyahu and Trump in a visible, publicly, they don't seem to be getting along very well. Trump is not taking his phone numbers on the various different objectives of what's happening on the global stage, specifically in the Middle East. They are not in alignment, and they're not happy with each other. What did Netanyahu threaten about 3 to 4 weeks ago. We'll just release the Epstein files. What if that was the plan? What if it was all KFAB? What if that was the plan? What if it was Benjamin Netanyahu, who's ending his political career here in the next few months, that releases tranches of Epstein files when he's in a direct fight with Donald Trump? Now those people get taken down, but not directly by Donald Trump. See how that works? I hope that people kind of understand that a little bit better, because that was a 30-minute monologue rant about it all. And I hope that that makes so much more sense now, Josh. Because sometimes, literally, if I'm driving in a vehicle, I have to do that myself. I talk to myself like I'm talking to other people. And that's how I got to talk to myself. We're going to transition the content away from Epstein. We're going to get into some other things here. We're going to go back to that Q post, actually, and talk about why that was important. But we're going to look at something that came out today, and we're going to talk a little bit about Marxism. We're going to get into what happened today. If you were Sunday night, and I don't remember if I said this on the show, but I did say it to Alpha after the show. And I said, by the way, I told Alpha Sunday night, okay? I said, hey, what's the good word? And that's kind of what we do when we're like, got any intel? And he goes, this and that. And I said, there's going to be a declassification coming this week that is going to expose a lot of what happened during the 2020 election. He said, really? Yeah, it's coming. Probably midweek. Happened today. Now, how did I know? I don't know. Just knew. Little birdies. Woo. Okay, let's do this real quick. And this is for Rumble. Anybody who's interested in this, go on over to Rumble. You can find this. All right, parents, real talk for a second. Democratic Socialists are winning the primaries and gaining political influence heading into the 2026 midterms. And their ideas in favor of higher taxes, welfare programs, and bigger governments are not only threatening our way of life today, but they could destroy your children's future. Your kids are bound to hear more about socialism as we approach the midterms, but depending on the source, like their public school teachers, they could be hearing that socialism is better than capitalism, that socialism is the answer to all our problems. Parents, trust me on this. You want to be in control of this conversation so your kids don't risk being brainwashed into believing these lies. That's why I want to tell you about the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism. Designed specifically for kids, this important guide explains the differences between capitalism and socialism's big brother, communism. In a way kids can understand. It explains crucial concepts such as free markets, individual freedom, and government overreach. The Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism also helps kids understand why socialism and communism have never worked by taking your kids through different historical examples. From the Plymouth colony's failed attempt at socialism, Cuba's disastrous situation, or across the globe to the Soviet Union and communist China to show how their socialistic practices failed miserably. And remember, the midterms coming up, this is especially important for kids to learn right now. That's why the Kids Guide is giving you the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism for free today. It's part of a free gift bundle that includes the Kids Guide to Free and Fair Elections. The Kids Guides are free and yours to keep. You just need to pay the $2 for shipping and processing with this special order. To learn more, to order your free copy to the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism and your free bonus guide, just visit preventsocialism.com. That's preventsocialism.com. And a little disclaimer there about the Kids Guide. It is free, but there are stipulations. That is basically when you sign up for that $2 shipping and processing, you're also signing up for a monthly subscription to the Kids Guide. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to be the one you yell at when you're like, oh my God, they charged me for a subscription. Well, read the fine print. But thank you so much for the Kid Guide for sponsoring that ad on the show. General Flynn today, once again, going out there and showing us that comms are actually happening, that he is comming with us. He goes, I demand accountability for Russiagate, for Impeachmentgate, for the COVID vax scheme, for stolen election of 2020, for the J6 Federation, the USAID corruption, for you fill in the blanks. Who's with me? 2026 demand accountability. We're running out of time. Timestamp 8/28. Well, what the hell? Oh, get organized, be heard, make noise, make it rain. Post 8/28. Stay together, be strong, get organized, be heard, fight the censorship. You, the people, have all the power. You simply forgot how to play. Together you are invincible. They want you divided. They want you silenced. Make noise. We are with you. Make it rain. What did he do right there? He posted a timestamp that directly, it was an example of what he did. It's not a coincidence. Communism and socialism are a real threat. You know, the Minnesota elections, Mike Lindell is not conceding because he's claiming that something was funky in the Minnesota primary elections. And yes, there was something very off with the Minnesota primary elections. The numbers that came out from the Minnesota primaries don't make any sense. If you go back to the 2024 election and you look at the Republican primaries and the Democrat Party primaries, the numbers are absurd in context of the midterms. What do I mean by that? Amy Klobuchar took in like 86% of the vote. Not that little high, but had over 580,000 votes in a primary. Mike Lindell and DeMuth combined had less than 220,000. That doesn't make any sense. Trust me, the Republicans are voting. Okay, you go everywhere. Mike Lindell, it's all Mike Lindell signs. I saw like one DeMuth sign. So something happened here in Minnesota, and I'm hoping they get down to it. But what we are watching, guys, is the takeover of communism and socialism in our country. That is happening. Remember, this is scorched earth. That is where we are at, scorched earth. That is how they operate. When they realize that the floodgates are caving in on them, they're going to go all out. This is Yuri Bezmenov. Listen to what he says.
Religion, we have education, constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away. Okay? Social life. Replace traditionally established institutions and organizations with fake organizations. Take away the initiative from people. Take away the responsibility from naturally established links between individuals, group of individuals, and society at large, and replace them with artificially, bureaucratically controlled bodies. Instead of social life and friendship between neighbors, establish social workers institutions. People who are on payroll of whom? Society? No, bureaucracy. The main concern of social workers is not your family, not you, not social relations between groups of people. The main concern is to get the paycheck from the government. What will be the result of their social?
So this is on my X account if you want to go watch the rest of it, but I highly recommend you go watch Yuri Bezmenov's interviews that are all on X. And yes, he was killed soon after all of this. So communism and socialism right now are a big threat. And unless we start to take back our social systems, our educational systems, we will fall. It's not a matter of if, it is simply a matter of when. And I know that, hey, we're making America great again. Yeah, guess what? The Marxists have never stopped. How to defeat communism. Learn from someone who warned us how they will do it. That's Yuri Bezmenov. What we should be doing is taking back our educational systems. I think that this is paramount. From grade school to university, these are the breeding grounds for the Marxist ideology. As long as each new generation is indoctrinated into this radical ideology, nothing will change and it will just grow more powerful. We have to take back education, guys. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, the Trump administration, Trump signed an executive order basically disbanding the Department of Education, but it's still there. It's still operating. We need people within their states to begin demanding from their governors, from their elected officials, that this shit, the curriculum in our schools begins to change, that we eject these radical, liberal teachers who are teaching our children nonsense, radicalization, radicalized ideologies. With the, and I'm going to put this out there, this is more of a personal perspective. One of the main reasons for the flooding of all the illegal immigrants into our country and the mass immigration from Africa, Northern Africa, and the Middle East into our countries, it was not necessarily for the communal level, the community level. That is kind of how Islam operates, though, is that you migrate, you replicate, and then you dominate. And they kick everybody out. They begin to take over those social constructs. But one of the main reasons is because of the kids. Now you get to flood those education systems in with all of these kids from third world countries who came from Marxist ideologies, who will easily adapt and accept that. And Islamification is very similar to communism, Marxism. We are in a very trying time right now in our country. Yes, Donald Trump is doing amazing things and great things are happening. We're about to see accountability on scales that we can't even imagine. But the threat is still at the door. The threat is inside your house. The threat is within your schools. It's within your local governments. It's in your town boards and village boards. It is your mayors, your HOAs. It is your state assemblies, your state senates. It is your sheriff's office. It's real. It's happening. And it is a threat to every single American and our way of life. That's what General Flynn is saying. It is time to stand up. We have to ensure that the midterm elections are safe and secure. That's why I'm calling for President Trump to pass a national emergency on election integrity and infrastructure, as I've been saying for 2 freaking years of this administration since they came into place in power. Now, what we're seeing is that Donald Trump, yesterday, we heard about this, was talking about it and saying, stranger things have happened. There was a poll being done on Just the News. If the Senate doesn't pass the Save America Act, will Trump declare a national emergency? And you know, I got to throw this out to Just the News. Your headline is actually very misleading. It says, if the Senate doesn't pass the Save America Act, will Trump declare a national emergency? Should he? Even if the Save America Act is passed, you still need the national emergency, because there's no way that the Save America Act is going to be implemented or even get out of the court systems, because it's going to be fought by liberal activists faster than you could ever think. There's no way it'll be implemented before the midterms. The only way to secure the midterm elections is with a national emergency. Now, people are voting. 65% he should and he will. Now, I get a lot of people out there like, oh my God, you know the midterms are going to be delayed? Look, guys, I love Juan. I know Juan. I've texted with Juan. I've known Juan for years. We don't agree on everything. Sometimes he goes this way. Sometimes I go this way. I don't believe the election is going to be delayed. I don't believe it's going to be canceled. I don't believe any of that. I think that the election is going to happen on election day. Now, we can look and kind of wait, say, okay, who's right here, Juan or Josh? Well, we'll see. We'll find out. I don't know. We will find out, though. So, do I think the election is going to happen? Yeah. It's not going to be delayed or canceled. With that being said, we need a national emergency on election integrity and infrastructure put in place before that. I'm thinking Labor Day, a little after Labor Day time frame is probably when you're going to see this. Okay. Little more transition out of the communism, socialism talk. And we're going to move into a different talk here. All right. We're going to move into a different talk here. You remember when it was reported that the new Air Force One dropped Trump off in Turkey and then headed back to Britain, and they brought in the old Air Force One? And I was live and I said, hey, you have to understand what's going on here. They're not showing this new Air Force One to military soldiers in Britain. Something is going on. And I started to align it with what Netanyahu said a week ago, because Netanyahu said there's a direct threat against President Trump's life by with an assassination attempt of Iran. Maybe that was in the intel brief that I got. I don't know. Pretty sure he said that, though, but maybe he didn't. But Netanyahu had told Trump this. And from what I got from sources that I know, is that on the way across the Atlantic, the new Air Force One, I guess I can say this. I think I've talked about this, right? I've said this before. The anti-missile defense systems and the countermeasure systems on the new Air Force One went down. Cyber attack. Went down. Cyber attack. That's why that happened. So what happened? They brought the old Air Force One in. No problems with that, but there was still a threat looming. They wanted to control the narrative. So what are we finding out today? This is what they're saying. This is what they're saying. Iran planned to use shoulder-to-air missiles to destroy Air Force One in an assassination attempt on President Trump in Turkey last month. The Secret Service and U.S. military moved him to a secret military jet to fly him to the UK. False. Bullshit. Benny, I don't know where you got that information from. Fox News is report. Okay, let's listen. Okay, I'm going to tell you how much bullshit this is. Because
welcome back. President Trump says the U.S. has total control over the Strait of Hormuz.
It comes as new details emerge over the reported Iranian threat on the president's life while he was at the NATO summit in Turkey. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst joins us live in Tel Aviv with those details. Hi, Trey.
There we go.
Hey guys, good morning. It's a story that has captured the world attention this week, a threat against President Trump's life in Turkey last month. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that it was Israeli intelligence that tipped off the administration about this specific danger. The report explains the sourcing on this information, saying the U.S. official said Israel briefed the Trump administration on the intelligence, which included a threat to use shoulder-to-air missiles to target Air Force One. Now, ultimately, the president was moved from Air Force One to another plane using a catering truck, according to initial reports.
Okay. Well, right when they said live from Tel Aviv, I knew what the hell was going on there. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Interestingly enough, did he just confirm everything that I just told you beforehand? And I said the day that all this happened? Just an FYI. I thought I didn't listen to that before this, so I didn't know what I don't listen to Fox News at all. So what did I just say before that? That I talked about the day this all happened when Trump was saying that the new Air Force One literally went to Britain so soldiers could tour it. Before any talk about an assassination attempt even came out. I said, Israeli intelligence is the one who brought this. Netanyahu brought it directly to Trump. And by the way, they're covering up what it was. I hope Secret Service don't come in and ask me where I learned this information from tomorrow. But it wasn't surface-to-air missiles. Excuse me. That was lingering in my throat. But let me kind of explain what happened. Israeli intelligence came out with an active threat alert for President Trump on his trip to Turkey. From what I gather is that there was a cyber attack or maybe something else happened on Air Force One on the way there. The anti-missile defense systems and the countermeasure systems went down. It landed. They changed out Air Force One, took Trump to Turkey. And then they claimed that there was, shoulder-to-air missiles. No, that wasn't a threat that was actually active. If anything, that was a false flag intel by Israel, Mossad, to try to pressure Donald Trump to bomb the shit out of Iran more. The actual Iranian threat is actually in Cuba. Huh? What? It's in Cuba. So what Iran was planning to do is that hack that happened on the anti-missile and the countermeasure systems on Air Force One wasn't supposed to happen until Trump was flying back from Turkey to Mar-a-Lago. And once he comes in to the international shoreline, drones launch from Cuba, Iranian drones launch from Cuba, and they would have hit Air Force One. That was the plot. I don't know what all this shit is, but that was the plot. I think one day that's going to come out. I think one day you're going to hear someone at the White House, someone at the DOW say that. Just saying. All right. Today, someone got arrested. Holy shit. We're actually seeing arrests. Somebody got arrested. The unsealed indictment of former SPLC CFO Hydrate. She dated and lived with a neo-Nazi and used donor funds laundered through a fake company to enrich them both. She created fake companies to launder donor money to hate groups and structured transactions to avoid oversight. What does Todd Blanche and everybody say about all this? Oh, let's listen here.
Unsealed a case against the former chief financial officer of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Can you please speak a little bit about what you've learned as part of that investigation and if we should expect more charges?
So yes, today, my understanding is today there was an arrest made and there is a new indictment that includes the former CFO of SPLC. I don't have any comments about whether, we've said from the beginning, everybody, not just me, but anybody who's talked about this case, like virtually every criminal case, the fact that an indictment is returned doesn't end the investigation. It's just part of the investigation in most cases, which is certainly true in this case. I think as alleged in the indictment, this individual participated in the scheme as alleged. I believe she was part of the effort to open bank accounts in completely fictitious companies' names and make payments to individuals for.
Now, notice what he says here. Alleged and participated. As in, she wasn't the ringleader. She wasn't the mastermind behind this. She participated, which means that there's more people integrated in all of this. Important to remember there. Now, I saw some people talking about Cuba in the chat. One of the things I also think that you will learn is that the blackouts happening in Cuba are not accidental and that they are not because they're lacking energy. They're intentional. And under one of those blackouts, from what I gather, is an operation might have happened to take out those Iranian drones. Maybe one day we'll learn more about that. Attorney General Todd Blanche announces DOJ indictments a massive foreign marriage fraud ring. 11 defendants have been indicted, orchestrating over 1,000 sham marriages. Chinese nationals recruit American citizens via social media, paying $100,000 to stage sham marriages. And there's more. I keep on every post today, I put more to come because you're in the drip phase, people. You're in the drip phase. The floodgates haven't been opened yet. The documents declassified and transparency pushed by Donald Trump. So, Just the News is putting this information out there. Obviously, first to the egg on all of this. Bring it up on the big screen over here. All right, we're going to put that up there. A database of all the documents declassified President Donald Trump since July. Round River, that was today. Memos related to the secret counterintelligence operation codenamed Round River that was launched during the 2020 election by a task force of FBI analysts, which formerly designated Attorney General Bill Barr, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, key members of Congress, and journalists as Russian disinformation conduits in an apparent effort to tamp down the Ukrainian corruption scandal engulfing Joe and Hunter Biden. By the way, Sunday night I said, this week, you're going to have something come out that's going to pertain to the 2020 election, and it's going to be pretty damning. Round River. Maricopa County voter database breach. Arizona's largest county, Maricopa, suffered a significant breach of its election data in the days before the 2020 presidential election when the self-described hacker foiled security and obtained 633,000 voter registration files. But the Biden Justice Department and local prosecutors declined to bring charges even after the FBI got the suspect to confess. March Toll, FBI opened a probe into sitting Attorney General Jeff Sessions in May of 2017 for potentially making false statements to Congress about Russian contacts, even though he had already updated the disputed testimony. The evidence to support the probe, codenamed March Toll, and opened one day after FBI Director James Comey was fired by President Trump. So that was opened by Andy McCabe, who was acting FBI Director. Oxford, The FBI opened the criminal probe specifically targeting Donald Trump in May 2017, alleging the newly elected president may have been acting as a Russian asset when he fired then-director James Comey, even though the Bureau's own evidence overwhelmingly showed at the time there was no collusion with the Kremlin. Andy McCabe, again, acting FBI director, opened this one up. Non-citizens on state voter rolls. Homeland Security Department found more than 250,000 illegal aliens were registered to vote in 4 states, California, Nevada, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, according to a review the agency conducted on publicly available information. That's not the actual voter rolls that they have on the private side. Michigan voter registration probe. Contained in the trove of election-related documents President Trump released to the public in July are the FBI's investigation files and communications about the possible voter registration fraud scheme in Muskegon, Michigan, that ended without prosecution. China's acquisition and exploitation of American voter data. President Trump released hundreds of pages of documents revealing China began sweeping up millions of voter roll registration records in 2020. By 2023, the country had obtained at least 220 million voter records in the United States and gained access to the data in at least 18 states. The dump also contained evidence of a concerted effort by members of the intelligence community to withhold information about the breaches from then President Trump. That's treason. Vulnerabilities in electronic voting and ballot counting systems. From 2004 to 2020, the U.S. intelligence community monitored plans by the Venezuelan leadership to electronically manipulate their country's own voting machines, including those used of substantiating false votes in order to secure victory for the ruling socialists. This intelligence raised concerns in the intelligence community that American systems could also be vulnerable. I wonder why. Smartmatic, Dominion. President Trump said that Venezuelan capabilities are evidence that American voting systems need to be better secured. Now, this was just in the July. At the end of June, DNI Tulsi Gabbard released massive information pertaining to the origins of COVID-19 coming out of a Wuhan lab that also implicates various different people, including Fauci's former assistant, another guy by the name of Ralph Barrick, as well as other co-conspirators that were still sealed within the indictments. And this also included the origin of 72 biolabs operating in Ukraine that are now under investigation by the Defense Intelligence Agency, because it's under their DITRA, Defense Threat Agency, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, as well as the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. That's just since June, people. Come on. This is like drip, drip, drip. You got to build it up, right? We go back to that first Q post that we talked about, right? Only when people see the truth for themselves will people understand the true nature of the deception. Seeing is believing. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. We're only halfway through the show. We'll get it all done. We'll get it all taken care of. All right, we're going to do a quick transition in content. Not really. Well, not a quick transition. Yeah, we're just going to keep on going for right now. I got a few more minutes till we transition content. Badlands Media, the Justice Department has quietly convened a special grand jury in Washington, a rarely used illegal weapon reserved for unusual cases like investigations of government officials, broad conspiracies, or organized criminal activity. Yes, this happened today. Remember? Okay, I love this because what does anybody remember when I was talking about grand juries the other day? Was it on Q After Hours or DEF CON last week or this week? And I said, I was talking to people out there, but I had Alpha with me, and I was saying, don't tell me nothing is happening. You have grand juries formed up, the Southern District of Florida, the Eastern District of North Carolina, Eastern District of Virginia. You have a grand jury sitting in New York right now that just subpoenaed Neville Roy Singham. I said, you got a grand jury in Washington, D.C. Grand jury in Washington, D.C. Now, John Harold said, notable, it is unclear what the new special grand jury will be tasked with probing, but those interviewed said it'll be a notable move, especially given President Trump's interest in prosecuting his adversaries. So I put more on this. This is a very rare and typically specified to crimes inside the district. This will be interesting to watch unfold. You want to know what I think it's about? I think that this grand jury that is being impaneled right now in Washington, D.C. is for Oxford, and March Toll. And what else do we got? Oxford Karma, March, and Round River. So Round River, March Toll, and Oxford Karma. Why? Because all of those were centered and structured directly within Washington, D.C. and happened at the FBI 7th floor leadership. In the latest declassified documents, Hunter Biden and Devin Archer were among several individuals listed as FBI equities. Remember, we talked about equities last week. AI defined FBI equities as an agency's equities are its interests, authorities, investigations, sources, methods, operational concerns, or information it owns, own origins. So we talked about this last week with Paul Sperry post that he had put out there. He said that FBI now says other equities in the intel chain are holding up its release, but bottom line, so we were talking about equities last week. Now, these equities right here in the intel chain is actually the CIA, but that's going to get subpoenaed by AG Blanche. In other words, we cannot release this yet because other agencies at CIA or protected interests are implicated, and we must approve or review first. So going back to John's post here, when you look at the equities that are in here, you're going to find out that they were most likely CIs for the FBI or the CIA. That Devin Archer and Hunter Biden working at Burisma were listed under the FBI as confidential informants. Guarantee it. That's what that's going to come out. And I think that that's going to get rejected and still prosecuted. All right, this is 6 minutes long. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. But this lays out the newest declassification of Round River, which we just talked about. Let's
get us up to speed on latest drops from the task force, sir.
It just happened this morning up at whitehouse.gov. We put the first documents out on an counterintelligence operation called Round River. This is the mirror reverse image of Crossfire Hurricane. So Crossfire Hurricane, they pursued Donald Trump on Democratic fake evidence that he was conspiring with Russia. As soon as that comes to an end, I break the original stories about Hunter Biden in Ukraine, and the FBI and the Intelligence Committee goes into a reverse operation, which is they're going to now neutralize real evidence from their own informants suggesting that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have a corruption problem in Ukraine. They go into action and they do that. And what they begin doing is they go into there were 14 informants. One of the big headlines of this package that we made public this morning is there were 14 informants in the intelligence community and inside the FBI that were providing derogatory information on Joe Biden during the 2020 election. Some of them had been providing it consistently since 2015. Many of these informants had long trusted relationships with the U.S. government, one going all the way back to 2008. So they're good, long-serving informants. They're long reporting Biden corruption allegations. And as the 2020 election is nearing and the Ukraine impeachment takes on President Trump's efforts to look at this, my stories are getting discredited, even though they were true. The FBI launched a counterintelligence investigation called Round River. It's actually an operation, not an investigation. It's designed to neutralize all this information. They do three things. Perhaps the most concerning of the three is that they go into the files, these analysts go into the files of these informants who've been reporting this information on Joe Biden, and they mark it as Russian disinformation, so it can't be used to bring charges or investigate Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. They literally sanitize the files. The second thing they do is they go out and they start to divide the characters who are out on the public scene. There are people who are investigating Hunter Biden and those who are trying to say it's a conspiracy theory, and they put them into two categories. They treat Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, John Kerry, George Soros, and the Democrats who are named in the Ukraine files as victims of Russian disinformation, as targets of Russian disinformation. And then they take the sitting Attorney General, Bill Barr, the sitting Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, the sitting chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, the sitting chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, Ron Johnson, and all those people who were investigating the legitimate information on Hunter Biden. By the way, I made the list, and they call them conduits of Russian disinformation. We are basically propagandists. That designation drives a significant amount of activity designed to suffocate or to snuff out any legitimacy to the Hunter Biden has a Ukraine corruption problem, which, by the way, the government's own files made clear. By the time this is going on, in 2020, the FBI has Hunter Biden's laptop. It has several of his partners cooperating. It has 14 confidential human sources. And yet this team goes in and tries to make it all look like it's Russian disinformation to protect Joe Biden and to hurt Donald Trump.
Sounds like Christopher Wray is going to be going to jail for a long time. There's a few interesting parts here. Number one is you gotta take into context what was also happening this time. You have Hunter Biden's laptop that comes out, and 51 former and current intelligence people within the intelligence community, directors and above, come out and sign a letter stating that it was Russian disinformation. That is aligned with this Round River counterintelligence operation that was going on at the same time. Remember, they had 14 confidential informants telling the FBI of Joe Biden's corruption. This is pre-2020 election, and you have the fucking FBI getting reports from legitimate confidential informants of corruption of Joe Biden, of how he's compromised by China, how he's in bed with a mayor of one of Russia's towns and within the Ukraine. He's compromised. He's taking dirty money, and he's running for president. And the FBI, instead of investigating and disqualifying him from being president, tagged all that information as Russian disinformation, then went and tagged all the people in the counterintelligence operation that could do something about it as conduits of Russian disinformation. That's fucking treason. Christopher Wray, you better lawyer up, buddy. You're going to be going to jail for a long time. Puts a whole new meaning to Ray is a sleeper, doesn't it? All right. The FBI's internal defense briefing spreadsheet created as part of Operation Round River. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force used to formally categorize people and organizations involved in the Ukraine narrative, allegations of the Biden family corruption involving Burisma, Hunter Biden, Mykola Shlovatsky, that's the Russian wife of the mayor, into two groups: target, person or entity of the FBI treated as a victim of Russian disinformation, and a conduit, person or entity of the FBI treated as a channel or a spreader of disinformation. And so you'll love this. Targets of Russian disinformation. Thanks, MJ Truth, for putting this out there. Targets of Russian disinformation. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, George Soros, Victoria Nuland. We got any other notable? John Templeton, Devin Archer, George Kent, Maria Jovanovic. Oh, that's an interesting name. Maria Jovanovic. That's an interesting name. I got to hold on to that name for a second. So, Vanya Pardus, Hillary Clinton Foundation, Morgan Stanley, Private Wealth Advisors, Rosemont Seneca, Paul Pelosi, Tom Steyer, Stanford and Yale University, the Democracy Alliance. And then who were the conduits of Russian disinformation? Oh, yeah. All the good guys, people. All the good guys. I didn't see my name on there. Thank goodness. Treason doesn't pay well in the end. Okay, so let's listen to John Solomon again on this topic.
Election, it's not putting a thumb on the scale of the 2020 election. It's putting an entire body on the scale of the election. It is unheard of to have a group of analysts go in and take active informant files without evaluating whether the evidence is true. That's a very important thing. One of the documents that we made public today on the White House website, you go to whitehouse.gov, go to the election integrity tab, and you'll see it there under Round River, is a 2025 intelligence community review of this operation. In 25, the intelligence community looked back at this and said, we're very troubled by this. One of the things they were most troubled by was they were neutralizing and denigrating long-term informants who were providing valuable information without even determining whether what they were saying was true. They marked it Russian disinformation.
Okay. The important part there was this pertains directly to the 2020 election. Now, I want to word this correctly. And it looks like we got a troll over in YouTube. I heard him say, "Mega tears fuel my drinks." Shut, dude. You know, people jump in the chat, trolls. There's been a lot of them on Rumble and YouTube lately. I think people are just like clueless. You got to think, you got to think outside the quadrilateral parallelogram, right? Some of these people, they live inside of a box, but they think that that box is the entire world of existence, and that nothing that is in that box can be understood by anybody else. I mean, the average liberal is a fucking narcissist. They're narcissists. The dude in the chat, I bet he's a narcissist. I bet he fucking smells his own farts and fucking, looks at himself in the mirror for 3 hours a fucking day. I can't stand these people, but you know what? Let them go. Block them if you want. That's Sensei Mia. Go ahead and block them if you want. Up to you guys. All right. Now we're going to transition. I wanted to talk about the 2020 election. So this is so critically important about the 2020 election because Donald Trump set the precedent, legal predicate, a few weeks ago when he addressed the nation on the influence and the interference operations by China in the 2020 election. He laid out that a lot of these influence operations started as early as 2019. Now, is there a way to connect the FBI's various different investigations, like Round River, which is a counterintelligence operation, to the information being put out there by China? Well, I don't know. Who was one of the people named on that list? Rosemont Seneca Bodai? Oh, Joe Biden was compromised by China. Rosemont Seneca's deals prove that. Rosemont Seneca Bodai proved that. You have a direct financial connection to this counterintelligence operation of a corporation, a company listed on it that was funded by the Chinese Communist Party. Now, go back to what Donald Trump said. Legal predicate, people. All right, we're going to do a quick transition here. Get this one out of the way. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of banks holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you are in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you are set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code and click the link in the description and download the Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you are in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go out hearing about crypto to actually owning some. And yes, we talked a little bit about that the other night. It is coming, guys, and it's going to be very badass. And everything is ramping up right now. I highly recommend you go to redpills.tv, go to sponsors, scroll down, do that crypto course. Do the crypto course. All right. What do we got next? Mike Lindell alleges voting anomalies in Minnesota Republican governor's primary, refuses to concede. I talked about that a little while ago. Very true. Something is definitely weird about all of that. Trump on Iran. I love this. This was last night, Trump talking about Iran. And then we'll kind of get into what he's saying next and why this is important.
I don't trust Iran. Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. And at some point, maybe they'll do something and then they get blown away. But right now, we're in a very good position. We have a country that has been the bully of the Middle East for 50 years. It's really 51 if you think about it, right? We've been saying 47 for 4 years. And they're no longer the bully of the Middle East. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. I was actually trying to moderate this person. Hide user on this. Okay. There we go. Goodbye, dude. I'm just tired of looking at it. It distracts me while I'm trying to actually do a show. Okay. So Trump talking about what? I don't trust Iran. Are you kidding me? They've lied every line of the way. Well, I want you to think about this for a second with Iran. You have the FAGA, fake MAGA, right? And other people out there like Trump's made 55 different deals with Iran. Yeah, he's given them every opportunity. But one thing that he has shown the American people that Iran lies on the global stage, that Iran is lying through their teeth when they talk about peace. It justifies a lot of his actions. Now, going in here, Trump on Truth Social talking about the Strait of Hormuz. Let's go into this one. The USA has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel, and there is nothing Iran can do about it. They have no navy. They have no air force. The remaining soldiers are unpaid. The IRGC is decimated and fleeing, and their leadership is uncertain at best. They have no money. Their country is shot. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation. And getting worse. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East no longer. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. Okay. So my thoughts on this. He says maybe we should keep it. Ah, shit. No. Right here. Okay. He says maybe we should keep it. Actually, imagine what would happen if Iran had to pay the United States for access to the strait. You would have massive amounts of terrorism begin to drive up within the Middle East. But see, Trump is setting up a move here that I think that Trump is setting up a move here in the Middle East. A move that Iran is not going to be able to decline and that all the other Middle Eastern countries will get behind. I see this being more of an being organized into a Gulf consortium that will manage the strait. So instead of Iran, you'll have Iran, Oman, you'll have Saudi Arabia, you'll have all of these countries, Yemen, all of these countries, which will basically own a piece of the strait and manage the Strait of Hormuz and declare the fees for the strait. Remember, what just formed? Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, political military alliance. You have various different other geopolitical alliances happening between the GCC nations. They don't like Iran. They're going to put this in the check, and they're going to basically run and operate the Middle East through the Strait of Hormuz themselves. That is what Donald Trump is setting up right now. You can quote me on that because that is most likely going to happen. All right. This goes to tomorrow night. We have the OG show. The OG show tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's topic is going to be a little personal. I'm going to talk about some of my experiences that I've talked about hundreds of times before. Not only that, I'm going to talk about kind of what's going on with a lot of the research and what people are indicating these things really are. It's going to be about the more disclosure information that's coming up. But I want you to listen to what Marco Rubio says.
What's a conspiracy theory that you believe in? I'm asking both of you.
A conspiracy theory that I believe in? Well, it's not a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Okay. And, but I have long been on this UAP thing.
Okay.
And now, I've sort of surrendered that portfolio to someone else who you know well, who's very much in charge of the UAP issue. Again, it's not, what I say is, I don't know who it is, I don't know what it is, but there are things flying over our military installation and they're not ours, and we should look into this, be serious about it. And I did that for a long time in the Senate, and it had two benefits. The first is that obviously it's a legitimate topic, and the second is, whatever the news of the day was, it was controversial, and a reporter comes up to you, and you say to them, look, I don't have time for these questions about politics. Do you realize there's things flying over airspace? You know, we don't know what they are. And the reporter's like, oh, what do you know? Tell me more. So it was extraordinarily effective as a diversionary tactic in addition to. Now that said, it's also a very legitimate topic that we should be covering. So I don't call it a conspiracy. I don't know the answer to any of it. I'm just, asking the questions about, we should know what's flying over our airspace. But I don't think that's a conspiracy theory as much as it is just, it can be in some sense because people do believe we're covering something up. And I assure you, like in this administration, if we knew, like the president would be all over it. Like there would be, prime time address. He would,
for sure.
He'd be showing the pictures and the videos. But, Stephen's on that case now, and I think he's doing a great job.
Okay. He just legitimized anomalous phenomena that are flying under intelligent control that are not ours or any of our adversaries over military installations. That's the current Secretary of State of the United States of America. That is profound for many reasons. Number one is because it is basically disclosure happening without actual disclosure happening. Without Trump getting up on stage and saying, hey, we know what these are. And by the way, you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear that we know exactly what these things are until they know exactly what these things are and they have direct access to all of these things, to all this information, which they are trying to get that intel right now. Now, the Trump, I know, has been briefed on these things. Trump not only briefed by Grush and all these people, but he has had that fourth level debriefing by certain people that nobody ever knew existed in our government. Trump had that. He had that in 2018. He had it in 2020, and he had it again in 2025. He knows, he can't say, but he knows. Another person that's directly connected with all of this is Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane. I don't know if he's pushing for it or against it, but I think that it's all about the control of high-level technology, and we have what's called executive reauthorization, bringing this stuff back under the power and control of the President of the United States. That is going to take some time and force, even if necessary. The Trump administration just has to make the right moves. But I do believe that we're going to see disclosure within the next 2 years. And I think that it's going to be forced disclosure because we're coming up on an event here that is actually going to bring it about. And that event is, I think, once artificial superintelligence occurs, that event is going to become very apparent because first contact will be made. And I think that that's going to happen within the next few years. Wanted to give a shout out to all the Rumble rants and the super chats that came in. Mega Nuke gifted 5 subscriptions over on Rumble. Thank you so much, Mega Nuke. Appreciate that, bud. Going through, and I got to go through all of these. I can't pull them up on the screen like Alpha does. eGrab4, $20 Rumble ramp. That was on Monday's show, I think. Thank you so much, eGrab. I appreciate that. Thanks for remembering. 2F17, $5 Rumble ramp. I wish I could do more. Thanks, Josh. Always. Thank you so much, 2F17. I appreciate that. And I try to say thank you as much as possible, guys, especially when people are giving those rants and stuff like that. For YouTube, let me see if I could just go here. Let me go here. I want to see what's going on over at YouTube. I think we had a few different things come in. I'm not seeing anything. That's okay. I like that. Nobody just wants to hear me say Jew. Jewels, not Jews, Jewel, not Jewels, Jews or Jewels. I don't know. It's one of the two. But, I actually went out there and donated to somebody yesterday. They put out on social media that they were having some troubles. It's another influencer that's in the communities. And they said, hey, I'm having some trouble. Can anybody help out? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? And I sent them a message, and I sent it through XPay. And, nothing. Never said thank you, never said anything. And I know he read the message. It's okay, though. You know what? It's not being thanked for the deed. It's the deed that counts. But I appreciate you guys all. I have so much, the utmost gratitude for all of you guys. The live Q&A is Friday night. Friday night live Q&A. So that will be Friday night. That is just, you got to become a premium subscriber. I'll talk more about that tomorrow night, so everybody has that information. Tomorrow night, the OG show, Daily Dose, and the OG show. So I'll see you guys there. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Thanks for a great show tonight, guys. Have a good one. See you guys.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a life's prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!